Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your Libertarian car guy, and it's getting to be that time of year. Finally, at long last, the weather's starting to get tolerable, and that means it's getting to be time to take our cars out, clean them up, get them ready for the summer fun driving season. Now today I'm going to talk about particularly cleaning up older cars, which requires some different techniques than dealing with a newer car. And for purposes of this discussion, when I say old car, I mean cars built before the 90s, back in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, and before. Those cars were built very differently than modern cars, and particularly with regard to body integrity. And that's going to get into the subject of cleaning them. I'm going to show you some stuff about my Trans Am here, my guinea pig that I often use for these videos. It's representative of cars that were built back in the 70s. And back in those days, you had a lot of trim like this that was just kind of grafted onto the metal, and oftentimes it chipped the metal. And that will become important for reasons which I'll get into shortly. You also had trim like these window moldings, and these moldings, and these moldings. Now, if you look at a new car, you'll find that they don't have moldings like this, and it's for a really good reason. These are water traps. And what happens is, you wash your car, you spray the hose, you spray the water on the car. The water tends to accumulate in little crannies like this. And then what happens is, you start to get a little bit of rust like that. Same thing goes for these areas here where the metal trim gets put on the car. Typically, it gets jammed on there, and the paint back then, the paint quality wasn't as good as it is now, and there'll be a little chip. And when you spray water, the water gets up underneath this trim, and the moisture that gets in there often stays in there, and then you get rust. Now, that's why with older cars, it's a really good idea to not wash them in the sense of using water to wash them, if at all possible. The reason this car still looks really good, that's mostly its original paint, and the reason it only has some very, very slight surface rust is because this car, as long as I've had it, has been garaged. I've had it for about 25 years. I'm the second owner of the car, and the previous owner took pretty good care of it, but I suspect it was washed and it probably was driven out in the rain. So it does have a few areas that have some beginning surface rust, which eventually I'm going to have to deal with. Now, how do I keep it clean if I don't wash it? If you have been to an old car show, you may know the answer to this question already. It's by using a spray detailer rather than a garden hose. Products like this, for example. West Coast Customs sent me a whole package of stuff, which I'm going to individually review, but I'm going to use one of their products for purposes of this discussion. And Mothers and Meguiar's and other companies also make similar products, just FYI. But the concept is pretty much the same. So you have a can like this, and by the way, their packaging is particularly nice. They've got these metallic looking cans. It's not actually pressurized, it's just a standard spray can like the others, but nonetheless it's a very, very attractively packaged product. Anyway, what you do is you work a panel at a time. Okay, you get yourself a nice clean soft towel, and what you do is you spray some of the product on the area that you're working on. Then you take your nice clean soft towel and then you just sort of wipe it off. And the product is designed specifically to clear road grime, goo, bird droppings, and stuff like that, which of course water isn't. Water will get it off, but water really isn't designed to do that. Also, water can be contaminated. Water oftentimes is alkaline, or it's acidic, or it will have something in it, lime. Even sometimes, if you live out in the country, you'll know about this. Sometimes there'll be grit particles in your water. Anyway, some of that stuff is really not good for your paint, leaving aside the rust issue. Using the spray detailer, you can see the beautiful shine that leaves, and I haven't even waxed the car yet, and that's 40-year-old paint. So I really prefer to use the spray detailer rather than the garden hose on the car. And as long as you keep up with it and don't get the car really dirty like heavy mud, which probably isn't going to be an issue if you have an antique, an old car, using the spray detailers will let you avoid washing the car for years. And that will add years to the life of your car. in terms of preventing it from getting rusted. The spray stuff is also really nice to use on motorcycles just because you've got all these nooks and crannies again, and you can work individually on a bike. On a nice day, you can just kind of go out there in the drive pad and work on one section of the bike at a time without having to worry about water beating on the surface of the bike, on the paint, and being used by the sun as a magnifying glass and burning holes in your paint. Which is another problem with using water to wash your paint, particularly on a hot summer's day. Anyway, I'm going to have more up at epautos.com, and I'll also have some more about these products that were sent to me by West Coast Customs. Their whole line seems pretty neat. They've got all kinds of stuff here, including one thing I wanted to point out in particular that I thought was pretty cool. They have a wheel and tire cleaner combo. So it's similar to the Bletch White product that probably a lot of you use, I use. But it's 2-in-1, so instead of just cleaning your tires like the Bletch White does and then having to use a different product to clean your wheels, you can use both in that case, and that's pretty neat. Anyway, I will have more up at epautos.com, and then I'm going to go back to finishing the cleaning of my Trans Am here so that I can finally, after months, get the thing back out on the road and out of the garage. So thanks for viewing, and we'll catch up with you again soon.